All right. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode. I want to answer a question today where, people ask me a lot of times, like, what's the hardest type of OCD, anxiety, or stress related situation to recover from? And a lot of people think I'm going to talk about a certain theme, it's contamination or it's, the intrusive sexual thoughts or harmful thoughts. And it's not about a theme itself, right? In my opinion, the hardest intervention to help or hardest transformation to help guide someone through is really related to the insight of the individual into what the actual problem is. And so what I mean by that is a lot of times there'll be categories, right, within the DSM of the level of insight, right? One of which being so like high insight, medium insight, low insight, or absent insight. And so someone with absent insight is has no insight into what they're actually experiencing, meaning, whether it's fear, stress, anxiety, OCD, or, even a theme about, this, that, and the other. The individual with absent insight would never even consider this to be, an OCD, intrusive thought, anxiety issue. It would be the issue that they're worrying about, right? So someone who, let's say, has contamination fears, and even though they've gotten their blood tested many times and they have the same, negative results, they're still convinced that this is an HIV or AIDS problem. So someone with more insight would say, okay, well, maybe this is actually like a fear oriented issue. Someone with very high insight is like, this is just fear. This is just OCD and anxiety. This is just the stress and anxiety loop. What's happening is I'm in this state of fear and it's causing me to perceive this a certain way. And their insight is very high into what they're actually experiencing. With absent insight, the person is so identified with the mind that whatever the mind says is the issue. And so because there's no space, there's no awareness of consciousness, ultimately the individual is just caught into whatever their mind says is real. It is the reality. So instead of, like, to give an example of this, like instead of, hey, I'm having thoughts about, the FBI following me, or, being tracked on this, or I'm having thoughts about this, it's the FBI is following me. It's just like, this is real, right? So like one time I worked with an individual who was convinced that he really was in hell. And no matter what kind of conversation we had about OCD and anxiety, and me really talking about OCD and anxiety, it was all evidence to him as to why he was actually in hell. And I was trying to distort him away from actually, talking about the real issue, which was that he was in hell. That was a great example of someone who had very absent insight into the issue, because ultimately, in order to get to the point where we're like actually doing the appropriate intervention, we have to agree upon what issue we're dealing with and what we're actually intervening on. Because if I'm trying to, let's say, engage in, just being aware of one's thoughts and feelings, right? Or even being aware of the emotion one's experiencing, that would presuppose that this is a thought, feeling, and emotion cycle that we're getting caught in, versus if the person's like, well, no, that's the content of my thought, that's the issue, right? It's the FBI is following me, it's I am hell, I do have, this really is about AIDS, this really is about this, sexual orientation or harm thoughts, or whatever it is. If they're convinced that that is the issue, the insight into what the actual issue is removed, and therefore trying to stage an intervention on that issue of fear and the projection of fear onto a topic, it becomes very difficult. And so the work becomes about helping the individual develop the insight into what they're actually experiencing before you ever stage any kind of like actual intervention into fear, stress, and anxiety. And yeah, when it comes to like what is the hardest path, or the hardest path for someone to recover, it really, from my experience, comes back down to the insight of the individual, which is why so much of my work, involves this, right? Putting free episodes out, right? Our guide that we have on our site, the assessments, right? A lot of the free material is all about, actually like, hey, how do we get insight into what we're actually dealing with, right? Because the development of that helps the intervention immensely. Someone who struggles with the transformation of really breaking out of the loop, the reason is because they keep teetering back and forth into what they're actually trying to overcome. Is it the content of the mind, or is it the fear of the content of the mind? And if we're teetering back and forth between those things and treating that as real, we've lost insight. Now we have to regain insight to actually implement the tools on the right problem. So, or the right situation that the person's experiencing. So hope that makes sense. And yeah, I just wanted to answer that question because it's something that I get frequently, and I was like, it's nothing related to any theme. It really is about the level of the insight of the individual, and developing insight is so paramount to one's recovery. So with that, hope this was helpful. Again, we have some links down in the notes if you're looking for guidance on your own journey to recovery, of some resources to get you started. And with that, I wish you a great day and a great week, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Hey there, thanks so much for watching that episode. If you found it helpful, we have some links to some other episodes that we think you might like as well. And if you're looking for help on your journey to recovery from fear, stress, and anxiety, either check out the links in the notes or head over to restoredminds.com. Thank you, and talk to you soon.